My name is Megan Ross and I'm studying a Bachelor of Psychology at Monash University. I was on the VCE Honour Roll for Psychology and today we're going to be talking about observational learning. So in this video, we'll talk about what observational learning is, we'll talk about the learning process for it, and we'll also go through Bandura's experiment. So Bandura's experiment is considered a foundational experiment, and this will also help to give you some context and a scenario to work through. So observational learning occurs when someone watches a model's behaviour and the consequence. So what happens after this behaviour? And then they use this to see what they'll do in the future. Will they replicate the behaviour? Will they refrain from it? Or will they perform it in a modified way? So this goes back to what we call social learning theory, which emphasises the importance of the environment or the social context in which learning occurs. So in observational learning, people learn through what we call vicarious conditioning. So vicarious just means through someone else. It's not happening directly through us, it is happening indirectly through someone else. So we are watching someone else get reinforced, so vicarious reinforcement, indirect reinforcement, or we are watching them get punished, vicarious punishment. And then this is when the learner will either perform it in the same, a modified way, or refrain from it. So when we're talking about the observational learning process, the acronym we use here is called ARM. However, we are a pirate here and we say ARM because it has two R's. The A stands for attention, so the learner needs to pay attention to the model's behaviour. If the learner doesn't see the behaviour, they're going to be able to imitate it because they just plainly didn't see it, they didn't pay attention to it. Now, attention is influenced by the perceptual capabilities of the learner, as well as their motivation and interest. It also is related to the situation as well as distractors. Learners are more likely to pay attention to the model if they're perceived positively, so if they have a higher status in society, if they're similar to us, if they're familiar to us, as well as if they are visible and stands out against the distractions. So think about when you have a teacher standing up at the front of the room. If they're probably the same gender as us, we'll pay more attention to them. However, if the class is really noisy, we won't be paying that much attention and we probably won't see it. The first R stands for retention. So we have to be able to mentally represent what we're seeing and be able to retain it. If we can't memorize what we're seeing, we won't be able to replicate it because it's gone. So the next R stands for reproduction, which means that we need to be able to replicate the behaviour. Now, if we can't replicate it, learning just won't occur because we can't do it. So think about if you can't swim, you're not going to be able to replicate the behaviour of an Olympic swimmer. You're going to start off with your doggy paddle before you move up to your breaststroke in the Olympic kind of things. So yeah, you need to be able to reproduce the behaviour. Now, the M stands for motivation, but can also be called reinforcement. So the learner must want to be able to do the behaviour again. So for them to be able to want to do the behaviour again, this is reinforcement, which then provides the motivation. So reinforcement can occur through external reinforcement. So this is provided through another person or through an object. So think about when someone gives you praise or if they give you money. We also have vicarious reinforcement, which talked about it before, which occurs indirectly as it occurs through someone else. We're watching someone else get reinforced, and this reinforces us to perform the behaviour. We also have what we call self-reinforcement, which is the opposite to external reinforcement. So this occurs when we are reinforced by meeting certain standards of performance we set for ourselves. So I think you probably have an ATAR that you're looking for at the end of the year. If you achieve that ATAR, you will have self-reinforcement because you will be really happy that you met your own standards. Now let's talk about Bandura's experiment. So his participants were 4-year-olds in preschool. So what he did was he played a video of a model playing with a Bobo doll. So a Bobo doll is one of those dolls that you knock back over and the thing gets back up again. So the first video that he showed his first set of students was a model performing aggressive behaviour that was then rewarded with lollies. The second condition was the model was aggressive, but this was punished by spanking and verbal criticism. The third condition was that they were aggressive, but there were no consequences for it. So the results of this experiment showed that children who watched the model be reinforced or experienced no consequences were more likely to imitate the aggression. So this is compared to that condition of vicarious punishment. So when they watched the model get punished, they were less likely to perform this behaviour. However, when kids were rewarded after they performed this aggressive behaviour, they were even more likely to show it. So this happened even with those that watched the model get punished, because this direct reinforcement was stronger than that vicarious punishment. We can see that the children were still likely to be aggressive even if they experienced no consequences. So this really shows us that observational learning occurred even without that vicarious reinforcement or vicarious punishment. they still learnt to perform this behaviour.